Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We will call this meeting to order. We will begin with a roll call of board members, starting with Mr. Schultz.
Daniel Schultz, present.
Jenny Lohman, present. William Alhern, present.
Robin Murphy, present.
Charles Burdell Williams, present.
Pam Henry, present.
Okay.
And, Zachary, was he online?
Yes, he is. He was.
I think that's exactly. Oh, okay.
Can you confirm his
Oh.
attendance in the chat?
Yeah, he's not in there.
He's not up there.
I'll have my messages from him.
Next. Okay.
Right.
We're all set.
We're all set.
I'll let you-
Okay. We're all set.
I didn't yet. These guys should have.
Someone.
That's a really good idea.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the January 21st, 2025 minutes.
So move Pam Henry,
Thank you.
second, Jenny Lohman.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right. So now I have the pleasure of turning the meeting over to Dr. Cantrell. I'm sorry.
You can say it. I know you can say
Yeah,
it.
well,
Yes, so you did it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Scriven and the Board of School Directors. I'm very excited to be here with my supervisors to present to you an update on our special ed work. Those of you that were here last year, I presented with our supervisors some framework that we were doing. We were doing some digging into ensuring more consistency and more continuity for our students with disabilities across all 7 schools. And tonight we are proud to present the progress we've made thus far. As with any presentation that we give, this is the basis of how we start anything that we do. We talk about our belonging, our engaging, our seeking justice, and really, really working towards that equitable, inclusive community. So anytime we start our conversations within their district with teachers, we always start with our mission and our vision of Cheltenham School District. My portion in the beginning tonight is to just kind of lay the groundwork for not only our board members, but for those that are listening from abroad and here. It's to just kind of give it a background of special ed in general. Okay, special ed was born in 1975. I'm not going to give you a whole history lesson. You can see it there. But there's different acronyms and different terms that you might see associated when you talk about special education. Everything from child find to our multi-tier systems of support process, AKA MTSS, parent requests for evaluation or for assistance, the 13 defined disabilities through the evaluations, the IEP, which we call the roadmap to how we individualize our instruction for our students. You'll hear FAPE, you hear LRE, accommodations for our students, modifications for our students. Of course, we always need our parent, student, and teacher participation and community partnerships. And I put up there SEEK, and we have SEEK members, board members here this evening to support us as well. We began the framework development and during the 23-24 school year, we aligned it to what we know, right? We're in 2025, so there's tons of research out there and tons of base to go off of. We really want to ensure our students have high quality standards aligned resources on evidence-based practices, balanced system of assessments, as well as that ongoing professional development and collaboration. We focused our work on the different types of support that are most common for our students. These are not just the supports that we give our students, but we find our students in need of the most in the areas of learning, emotional, life skills, and autistic support. So the first thing we did when we started this and the continuing work that we do is to continue to make sure that our work is aligned to the existing curriculum, the existing resources, and everything that all of our students have access to. That is very, very important, whether it's intervention, the general academic curriculum, social emotional learning practices, MTSS, you heard me talk about the diversity, equity, belonging, and inclusion, and everything. Our students start with those resources. We reviewed our current resources and programs in place. We looked at evidence-based practices. We brought in some pilot programs, which we implemented this year, which we will give you some results on. They would be an example of your evidence-based programs. Thank you for approving that. That was a hefty purchase, so thank you. And that current and ongoing PD, which we're getting ready to, we've been doing it all year, but we are also getting ready to review our framework and our work to make any modifications and adjustments. This is just a background of what does it look like. This is what learning support is, based primarily on academics, the instructional level, the areas of phonemic awareness, decoding. I'm going to read all of that to you. Student who receives autistic support, their primary needs are in the areas of social skills, behavior and communication, possibly augmentative and assistive communication. We have support from our outside resources. It's Patent. We use ABA, verbal behavior. This is just an overview before we dig into the results of what our work has shown this year. Life skills, again, you're looking at adaptive and functional skills. Again, some AAC devices. Academic versus inclusive practices. Okay, there's medical components, social care, personal care, and then emotional support, behavior management, and emotional regulation, to name a few. And all of our supports there, we have a board BCBA that works primarily at Cheltenham Elementary to build that program, as well as registered behavior technicians and safety care trained individuals, along with our Lakeside counselors. So now we're going to dig into the results, learning support program information and results. Again, services for students who require work in the area of reading, writing, and mathematics. And I'm going to turn it over now to Diane Rodriguez or Ashley Fulham. They had a little tag team going on. So I'll let them go.
So for this year, indicated 8th grades, we use iReady. And there are 3 literacy programs. Magnetic Foundation, Reading Foundations, grades K to 2, focuses on early literacy skills, such as phonics, phonological awareness, and fluency. Magnetic Reading, grades 3 to 5, provides students to build knowledge with vocabulary, phonics, and other literacy skills. Phonics for Reading is the program for grades 3 to 8, and it focuses on fluency, comprehension, and phonics. And iReady Math is the comprehensive core mathematical program that makes math accessible to all students.
Okay, so the fall diagnostic was completed between September 2nd and October 25th. So these are numbers of completion. So for Cheltenham Elementary, we have reading at 62%, and math at just over 50%. Glenside is 86%, and math is just over 63%. Myers is 74% for both reading and math. Wyncote is 81%. For reading is 79% for math, and Elkins Park reading is at 0%, and 36% for math. And then at Cedar Brook, it was at 13% and 32% for math. So I want to clarify a few of the numbers. For Elkins Park math, there was a teacher that was a part of the pilot program. So she launched her classroom at the start of the year. And the same as for Cedar Brook, there's 2 teachers there that were part of the initial onset of the program. The remaining teachers, unfortunately, accounts weren't developed for them in terms of the teachers and students on the onset of at the start of the school year. So once that was, I was notified of that, I met with teachers and staff, and was able to make sure that everyone's added to the system. And you'll see the shift during the second diagnostic from the first.
So the winter diagnostic was completed and opened December 2nd all the way through February 7th. And we do see an increase of diagnostic completion as we see. For Cheltenham, for the reading, they completed 61%. Math, 54% was completed. For Glenside, a 76 for the reading was completed. For math, 72% was completed. Myers Elementary reading, the percentage was 86%. Math, 88%. Wyncote, 95% for reading, 90% for math. Elkins Park, 91% for reading, 84% for math. Cedar Brook Middle School, 79% for reading, and 86% for math. We see an increase for most of the schools for their completion for the winter diagnostic. The only school that was slightly decreased was Cheltenham Elementary. So we're going to continue to work with our teachers to make sure that they complete all of their diagnostics, especially towards the end of the year. We have one more. So this is the bar graph that I was able to gather with all the data, and the top part is the fall diagnostic, the bottom is the winter diagnostic. The light blue shows that 17 more students completed the math diagnostic. The orange, 3 or more grade levels below, decreases by, well, the orange is the 3 or more grade levels, and that decreases by 12 students. The yellow, 1 grade level increases by 12 students. The red, early on grade level, slightly increases by 5 students. And the dark blue, which is mid or above grade level, slightly increases by the 4. So these are the positive trends that we see from the bar graph. Some things that we will need to grow and improve is the completion of the diagnostic and working towards decreasing the grade level gaps. So for the reading diagnostic, the top is the fall, the bottom is the winter. And some of the positive trends that we see is that the light blue shows that 23 more students completed the winter diagnostic. The yellow 1 grade level increases by 22 students. The red early on grade level slightly increases by 3. The mid dark blue or above slightly increases by 5. So those are positive trends. And the area of growth is to improve the completion of student diagnostics. We still see that there's still 35 students that didn't complete it for the winter diagnostic. And also trying to increase the 1 grade level below, because right now for math, for the K to 4, the 3 or more grade level is very large. So we want to make sure that we decrease that and increase the 1 grade level, as well as the early on grade level and mid or above. So this is where we're at so far.
Okay, so this is for 5-8. As you can see, as previously mentioned during the initial diagnostic, there's a huge gap between the number of students that completed. As for the second diagnostic, there's 11 students at the time of the February 7th that hadn't completed the diagnostic, but 41%, 41, 10, 5 have. As you can see, there's a huge percentage of students that are 3 or more grade levels below. However, in reviewing the diagnostics individually, I'm noticing that students are rushing through the test. So there's like a yellow or red flag at the bottom of their diagnostic that would suggest the pacing may be a concern of students just clicking through to get done the assessment. So the hope is that as we're working through students completing the diagnostic, they're becoming familiar with the program, we'll see an increase. Additionally, as they're taking, there's different modules that they'll complete, typically between, we aim for 45 to 60 minutes a week of iReady participation. So as that is improving, my goal and hope is that we will see the number of students 3 or more grade levels below decreasing because they're accessing that material over time. And then same as for math, there's again, because a few of the math teachers were part of that initial state of, oh my gosh, thank you, that's pilot, thank you, of the program. There's a percentage of students that have completed the assessment. However, a large sum had not. However, during our second diagnostic, at this point, only 23 students hadn't completed diagnostic. As you can see, again, a large percentage of students are listed as 3 or more grade levels below. I think, again, as students are on the program, as we're rolling it out, and it's something consistent across all grade levels, we'll see that percentage of students 3 or more grade levels below decreasing. And I think this is also even more proof of why we need continuity of programs across the districts.
So we would like to strengthen the implementation of iReady through these next steps. We will continue to clarify expectations for diagnostic completion, especially for the last one that's coming up towards the end of the year, and ongoing professional learning for teachers. We recently had one February 14th, and for those who could not attend, and it was focused on using data to plan instruction and planning for small group instruction. Also, schedule check-ins with iReady partners to examine and respond to data, identify learning needs, and education overall.
So I do just want to start with commending my colleagues. If you notice, I'm one of the only familiar faces at this table right now. And as anyone could feel, when you walk into something you don't know, it is hard. And being that this is the first year that we're rolling this out, because you guys know we did pilots last year, our numbers are not going to look amazing in September. So I also want to put that caveat. But the goal is by June that we're going to be seeing great growth. Especially since I've had really positive responses from teachers for our program, as well as just in general, like it seems like the students are also enjoying it and like having something that they can have consistency with. So I am at the 9 through 12 plus level. And at this level, we're using Success Maker as a program for intervention for math, and ILIT 20 for reading. So if you notice, same deal is that in September, our enrolled students were looking at decent numbers. We have built in professional development throughout the year. So my teachers all had gotten training in August. I was out on maternity leave still, so I didn't get to sit in it. But some of the teachers really felt that was beneficial. And then the ones who also piloted have been really good support staff throughout this year, helping their colleagues. But so if you notice from September to November to February, our numbers are increasing because people are becoming more comfortable with the program, as well as understanding just the logistics of the program as well. So as we go through, like each slide, we'll kind of talk about what the goal for each of the programs were. So for Success Maker, like I said, this is supplemental work to math. So these students are obviously still receiving the gen ed curriculum, but now this is for those gaps when students don't have a grade level math goal, which they ideally don't. So if you notice the product that we're using is Success Maker, it's for that 9 through 12 plus. We had the initial placement, which helps us kind of determine where students are at. The goal is to use about 20 minutes a session. So a lot of students are using this either in their seminar class, which is often every other day for 84 minutes is the class in the schedule, or they're using it in their learning support class, their math class as well. And this, like I said, this is supplemental to the gen ed curriculum. So this is where kind of our breakdown for placement at the beginning of the year per grade level. So if you notice, we had not started was a little bit heavier on the older ages. And I think it's kind of going into that idea of they've been in the high school before. So they kind of knew what they were doing in the past, and now this is different. So different kind of makes it a little more challenging. But if you notice, a bunch of them were jumping on board. So this is, like I said, information from back in September. So we really were just initially rolling out these programs at that time. And so now this is middle of the year. If you notice, same deal is that each of those numbers increased in the use and the completion of those placement tests to kind of, once again, gather where they are. You'll also notice in some of the data that because the high school works on a block schedule, you will see a dip in December, January, because we were ending one semester and starting the next. And the students will be switching seminars. If they're in a seminar class, they'd be switching seminars at that point. So of course, you're going to see that in the data as well. So learning hours per week, like I said, our goal for Success Maker is about 20 minutes a session. So for a student who has a seminar every other day, you're looking somewhere between 40 and 60 minutes a week. Because once again, this is supplementary to their other instruction. So if you notice, we have a decent number of students, we have a heavy on that 60 to 80 minutes, which is exactly where we want to be. Because that's above and beyond, and same with that light blue of 40 to 60. So the bulk of our numbers for the use of time is actually in those two areas, which is exactly where, like I said, where we want to be. And then, like I said, you will see the gap. So look, we went on Christmas break. And so now all of a sudden, now people, and the kids know that they have access to this at home as well. So we have students logging time at home as well, not just in their seminar, which is awesome. I think when they find something they like, they want to keep doing it. And so, like I said, you'll see some changes in really hefty in December. And then January, we came into finals, we came into Keystones, a lot of things that mess with the normal schedule. And so that was Success Maker, that was math. And now the next program is ILIT 20, which is what we were using as supplementary for reading or for English. We use their beginning of the year assessments called the grade assessment. And the same kind of idea for usage is about 20 minutes per session when you do it. That's actually where the 20 in the name comes from. It's 20 minutes per session. So the ILIT placement data, like I said, you'll see an increase from September to November on number of students completing it, which once again is just the more comfort. I find that teachers who are comfortable with programs help students be comfortable with programs. And I'll admit, like I said, my teachers have come to me with questions and stuff, and we have a good rapport with Savvis. And so because of that, I can reach out and be like, hey, tell me how to do this, or hey, help me out here, which really helps my teachers. Like I said, we have a couple teachers who piloted ILIT, and those are also really good resources for their colleagues. So here we are with usage. So once again, you'll see typically pretty much an increase with the exception of January taking a little dip, because once again, that was that change in semester. And during things like finals and stuff, you're not doing that, and you're not doing success makers. So that's where you'll see a little dip, but it does continue to increase as the year goes on. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to our 3 amazing supervisors. They're staying on top of this. Hopefully you got to see through that everything that you approved last year and supported us in is being used and it's being increased. And most importantly, it's having a positive impact on our students. And where it's not, or where it's still a little bit sketchy, we're getting in there, I should say. They're getting in there and working with these teachers to get it right. There's other data that we want to share with you. One is in accordance with our board policy 113.2. According to that policy, we have to report to you 2 times a year on the use of seclusion. I'm not going to read to you what the definition is there, but there's the data. Anytime seclusion is used in Cheltenham School District, it must be reported to the Office of Special Education. I think we're coming up on almost 2 years with this policy. And our students are continuing to be safe. Our staff are continuing to understand different proactive ways to help our students. And I think most importantly, when we see it in action, we're helping them maintain their dignity too as well. When students have outbursts or they get into a place where they're not comfortable, we want to be sure that they have a safe place to go to and a safe place to kind of get themselves together.
So this is our update for our autistic and life skills support classrooms. We have the autistic support program at Wyncote, Myers, and Cheltenham Elementary, and they have been supported through the Patan Autism Initiative. They provide on-site training and coaching through hands-on classroom training. They're able to come in and provide that modeling and that verbal feedback. And also we work collaboratively to create learning environments for them. We have our BCBA, Dr. Ryan Brown Beasley. She's our internal coach, and she goes to these autistic support classrooms once a week, and she provides support such as if the students are achieving their learning targets, she makes sure that she increases the target, and she also helps with the student binders. And these are 2 statements from our 2 autistic support teachers at Myers. Autistic support program has helped my students build their communication skills and identify common items. Patan has helped my students increase their verbal communication, both with and without AAC devices. It has increased their ability to follow directions and maintain engagement during teaching. The life skills program at Glandside has been using the Unique Learning System program, and they're using it every day. And Miss Malone from Glenside says that ULS and Use2You has assisted her in providing contact area instruction with grade level standards. And they're able to access current events and articles that include symbol supported text, allowing the students to successfully read.
So I actually was the head of the committee for emotional support. So this is near and dear to my heart. We have been doing a lot this year with really having structures put in place for positive behavior supports and interventions for students, making sure that the students that are receiving this type of program, since it mostly relates around that emotion and coping and things in that nature, making sure that these students get access to that general education curriculum. I think that becomes a tricky part when a kid has an externalizing behavior. They lose that time in the classroom. So we really have been working on putting structures in place so that students are maximizing their time with that curriculum. We also have put a lot of behavior supports in place. We have this year 2 district BCBAs as well as 2 contracted ones. So they help support all the buildings across the district. We also have registered behavior technicians, or RBTs, that supports certain programs as well as certain students based on that need. And they have a different skill set of training when it comes to supporting students on a little bit more of an individual level. And then just in general, we're trying to reduce that one-to-one support so we really can support students with increased inclusion. All
right, back to me. I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Real quick, can I ask the question? What does BCBA stand for?
board certified behavior analyst.
Gotcha, okay.
It's the world of acronyms, right?
Yeah.
That's education, gotta love it. I apologize for that, so don't hesitate to ever interrupt me to give you an acronym. I may have to turn and think, what is that word? Under the Office of Special Ed is gifted support as well. So this is a really short sort of infomercial, but it is, should be given its due. Similar to what we did with special education last year, forming these committees. It was a lot of work in special ed, not that it wouldn't be a lot of work in gifted, but we are doing the same. So for this year, we, under the direction of Dr. Pimental, the supervisor of gifted, we put together a task force. Our first meeting was approximately 2 months ago, so we're just in the beginning stages of it. We've had 2 meetings comprised of administrators, psychologists, challenge consultants, gen ed teachers, and parents of students. And we're reviewing the gifted data, the chapter 16, which is the code in which we fall under for gifted education, as well as the current supports for gifted to make recommendations for improvement. So be looking for some updates in that area as well. And additionally, just an additional note that we shifted from we even have it spelled out here for you, the Naglieri nonverbal abilities, the NNET 3, version 3, to the Naglieri general abilities for the gifted screening. Because at this point, we believe it provides a richer set of data. And we are also using the Kaufman assessment battery for children, also known as the KABC, as a potential alternative to a more commonly used WISC when determining a child's IQ as part of search for a less racially biased IQ assessment tool. And that's part of some of the work that Dr. Pimental has been doing at this point. Just to give you an update on some structural shifts that we have undertaken with this work. We are now in year 3, almost completing year 3 of having the autistic support program back from the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. And as a result, as Ms. Rodriguez mentioned, we are continuing our work with the Patent Autism Initiative, which is huge. They bring consultants in, I think monthly, at least monthly, and they provide a report and support for our teachers. We're looking at each student, looking at their IEP, classroom setting, observations, and just true wraparound support at our classrooms at Wyncote, 2 at Myers, and 1 at Cheltenham Elementary. As I mentioned earlier, we have a dedicated BCBA working from the Aviana group with their emotional support teacher at Cheltenham Elementary. We have 2 dedicated registered behavior technicians at Cheltenham High School. We've had them since the beginning of the year because we found last year that the paraprofessionals we had assigned just weren't as on time and attending all the time. So we wanted to get some trained individuals in there. And I believe it's made a huge improvement. Jackie hasn't had to leave her office too often to help support this year. So that's been great. We just started special ed coordinators at each building. We've had special education department chairs at the high school for years and a coordinator at CBK. We now have a representative from one of the other buildings. We just had our first meeting about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So that is what I like to call a more boots on the ground approach. Now our supervisors are in the buildings almost daily, but the teachers, as you know, are in there every day. We have developed a newsletter. We had a newsletter before, but we wanted to put it out there with increased frequency at the request of the teachers. We do have BCBAs, as Jackie mentioned, conducting FBAs, developing positive behavior support plans, and following up with teams when on that previous slide there are reports of restraints or seclusion. Because at that point in time, they get involved, see if there's another FBA that needs to be done, see if the positive behavior support plan needs to be updated, IP team meeting needs to be held, and of course, parent contact is all part of that. Our speech and language therapists have been working to coordinate a district handbook to guide their practice. And that has been needed for consistency across all 7 buildings, as well as the absorption of the autistic support program. Years ago. Occupational therapists have been working on buildings. We have sensory rooms. I don't know if you've seen some of those in the Cheltenham News. We built those in almost all the buildings. I think we're still working on the high school, but I think all the elementaries have them. We also have a proactive, what we call pencil power, where we have an occupational therapist who's going into kindergarten and just working with all the students in their fine motor skills. And we also have obtained more registered behavioral health technicians to support our IEP students. This is similar to what we showed you last year with the exception of some of the programs. Our paraeducators are very important to us. They receive training they receive training every Wednesday. They receive an offer of training. All 3 supervisors work diligently in providing them with competency training or training in the area in which they're working, whether it's autism, team teaching. They get exposure to these iReady and iLet programs. Probably not as much lately as we would have liked, but they did get exposure to that in the beginning. And there's just a long list of things that we've been doing. I want to give a shout out to our HR department and also to my administrative assistant, Missy Williams, who put together with the help of the entire department, a paraeducator handbook, and has been the point of contact for our paras. As part of onboarding now, when a para is hired, they come through our special ed department and they receive some initial training and debriefing on what to expect before they go to the building. Rather than just kind of signing their paper and going right to the building and saying, hey, I'm here. And the last part of our presentation is our general parent feedback. This is very, very important. This is very exciting for us because when we get into the school year, we get into the swing of things. We often, the schools just kind of run and they kind of do their thing. And it's sometimes central office, we can kind of get disconnected, from the parents. So I think it's important to be proactive and reach out. I try to send a message out every month, maybe more frequently if I can. I'll work sometimes with our SEEK to, they'll ask me to kind of proactively put a message out. We work together in tandem. But we always want to see where do we stand? Where do we stand with the parents and how do they feel about the special ed services and supports in Cheltenham? So what I have here is I have the same exact statements that we used a little over a year ago today, and for comparison, you can see there. So the way you read this is the first two bar graphs there. The one on the right is 2024 and the one immediately to the left, where I feel I'm an equal partner with teachers and other professionals in planning. All the time or often, it was 71% last year and it's up to 80. Let me just first also state, and I'm sorry I don't have that on here, we had 143 respondents in 2024. We had 118 respondents this last time around, so not that far off. So you can see we increased in there. At my child's IEP meetings, we discuss accommodation and modifications. We increased 91 to 94. Pretty good, pretty good. We always want to, we always aim to get higher. We always want to get it right. All of my concerns and recommendations are documented. That went up a little bit from 82 to 87. During our IEP meetings, I'm given information about organizations. This was one area that we brought up with our parent group too as well when we met with them in the spring to help say, how can we get more information in your hands and follow up with that? So very exciting to see that only 36% in 2024 felt that they were given that. And by communicating, just being proactive, got that up to 60%. Do they feel like they've been asked about their opinion on how well special education services are meeting their child's needs? That went up from 49% to 74%. So very, very happy with that. Got some room to grow, but very happy with that. Understanding the programs and materials being used, that went up a little bit from 65 to 76, but it's the learning curve, right? You just learned earlier that our teachers are learning, right? Some new programs, and as you saw, as they learn, our students learn, we get on board and everything just seems to take off from there. This is the one area that went down a little bit in terms of my child's evaluation reports and in information in our IEP or written terms. I understand. I don't know if we'll ever be able to write it in a term because sometimes I have a hard time understanding what's written in there. So I think it's just important to follow up and really, really help that communication and really, communicate and say, is there any questions? Because I think sometimes we get lost in thinking that parent will ask questions. So sometimes the parent just sits there and doesn't want to ask any questions because they're like, they don't know, like they think everybody there knows and I should know. And we don't want to ever discourage them from asking those questions. At my school, teachers and administrators offer parents a variety of ways to communicate with the teachers went up, 73 to 86. You'll see there in the middle. Teachers and administrators give parents the help they need to play an active role in their child's education, went up from 70% to 81. Provide information again on agencies that can assist. That went up from 42 to 58. The transition in the transition from school. And explaining what options parents may have if they disagree with the decision of the school went up from 51 to 68. So really just not presuming that everything's going to be okay. Saying, hey, listen, come back to us, talk to us. But if you disagree, here are your options. That's very important. And that's contained in what's called the procedure safeguards, but not everybody reads them. They're very, very long. And yes, yes. Back in the day when you used to have hard copies, they would say, I don't want these anymore. I can wallpaper my house. But it is important to give them that reminder that they do have that right. At my school, teachers and administrators seek out input, went up from 65 to 78. Very excited that they increased in showing sensitivity to the need of students with disabilities and their families. And also increased in feeling that they respect their cultural heritage. Very important. Again, I think this really goes back to what I started off with the mission and vision of Cheltenham School District. So we're getting there. And then finally, we have a community partner. We have some members here tonight. I wanted to give them a shout out, our Special Education Alliance of Cheltenham. Currently, our central office team does connect with leadership approximately every 6 weeks. I think we have one coming up, maybe tomorrow, if we can make it. We'll talk. But through feedback, we have really tried to update our resources on the website, advertise those resources on the website, and communicate to families their work. They had a workshop in January that we tried to promote for them, as well as inviting them to participate in their meetings. And so I wanted to put on their contact information there. There's a Gmail there and also a Facebook page for any community member who's interested in learning more.
Okay.
That concludes that. Madam Chair. Yes, I know that was a lot. It was pleasurable to put together, very exciting. We have a lot of work to do, but you can see we're excited about our growth. And it really, I'm kind of glad it was postponed a week because we really had to pare down what we wanted to share with you, so you weren't here all night. But thank you.
Yes, we thank you for that, and thank you for doing the hard work, but also for choosing tools that seem to and will likely seem to later on to be helpful with the students that we're working with here. In addition, I'm happy to see the feedback, the gains that were made with parent feedback. That's invaluable, that parents are feeling more comfortable in all of these different areas. In addition, which is something that I'm sure you did intentionally, presenting the feedback in multiple ways. It helped me not to have every graph look exactly the same, all the same colors, that kind of thing. I think that was very helpful and likely intentional, so we appreciate that. Do we have any comments or questions from board members?
I have a
Yes.
comment and a question. So comment is, I know when you first got here, Dr. Cantrell, we talked a lot about the paraeducator training. And it's really good to see that not only has it changed, it's being done, but it's really being done well from what I can hear. So I'm really glad to see that that improvement. I think that's it. That's all I
We
want to
need them. We need them because they're with the students and they're around the buildings. We need them tremendously.
Excellent. Yes, Mr. Brown.
A follow-up question. Equal efforts on the board part, I think, to try to support that need to try to keep our paras here with some, actions that we took with donations a few years ago. How are we doing with retention? Are folks staying, or are we still, seeing our paras? Are we still, having challenges getting paras, or are we keeping folks?
We're not having challenges getting them. I'll be honest with you, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't think we've had much turnover at all this year. We've had very little additions. We've had some paras who've been very flexible, who we've had to move, from one building to another, just because of the way resources are. So using their skills and expertise in other places. But do you want to add to that? Because I really, compared to last year, we had an abundance of paras and it seemed like we were switching out. Again, I don't have those numbers, but I could look at that. That's a good thing to look at. I don't feel like we do.
No, I was just gonna additionally say, so I've been here for 3 years, and this year is where we have the highest rate of district employed paras compared to agency, which the buy-in and the commitment to our students, you will see the difference in those staff. So we've made it a commitment to hire internally. We actually have a lot of people who've graduated Cheltenham or live in the community that work in our buildings, which is like huge. But I would say that this year we have the best rate when it comes to district employment, so.
Any others? Mr. Schultz?
Yes, the Naglieri, this move from, I don't remember the acronyms, but the new program. When we switched to the Naglieri, part of the motivation was preventing racial bias in that screener. So I just don't want to assume, but does the NGAT have similar
Yes,
benefits in that regard?
yes. And that is part of the data that we are looking at, that Dr. Pimentel is looking at, is the breakout of the students and their scoring on the Naglieri, and then those that do qualify, who are issued a permission to screen, permission to evaluate, and that rate of return. And we're not just giving it that request one time, following up, phone calls, face to face, because we were seeing less of a return across different demographic groups as well. So we were seeing them, but we just weren't getting the permission in the past. Now we're starting to close it.
Torn on whether it's a very specific, I have a reputation of asking like a very specific math, like this number and this number. I'm gonna do it because I love just the clarification. It was on the iReady math 4th grade results. There was a difference of 30 students between the two actual bars, actually maybe forward one, I'm sorry. That one. Oh, back. Those two bars are widely different. Part of why it jumped out at me was 94 seems like a very large number. So it's just where did those students that didn't get logged as not completed, but then got presumably logged as 3 more grade levels below, where did they come from? Do we know? Okay, no problem. Sounds good, because it also might be nice if that actually ends up being 64 instead of 94. These numbers in general, are they seen as lagging measures? Meaning like it's sort of, what I mean by that is you're seeing what the impact of curriculum and pedagogical practices have been, or are they actually informing how teachers then approach teaching individual students? The question makes sense?
It does. I think right now, the way you asked that question, I would say a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. That is why Assistant Superintendent Savage is working. We are working with her and the principals and the teachers on that, the curriculum part, the curriculum aspect of it for all students, right? Because these numbers are showing us where the students are when we started using it, right? So obviously our goal is to close the gap, but I think the second part of your question, I think that is where our focus is. Moving towards that, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's a good.
Jenny has one. I'll be very quick on mine. This one is more of a data question. Why more seclusion at Cedar Brook?
So, sorry, forgive that. So there's 2 students I can think of, one particularly that were escorted in the classroom. And at that point, he needs to be escorted to the de-escalation space or the sensory room. So he's not willingly walking on his own. Even 2-person hold on either side, that's still considered seclusion because he's not freely moving. So we document anytime he was escorted down the room. So it's not necessarily a forward strain, maybe just escorting him, but regardless, he's not freely moving or freely going on his own, so it's considered seclusion. And from there, we
It's also considered it if they go there as well.
correct.
So sometimes students will voluntarily go.
And the other piece of that is meeting with the family, which we've had numerous interagency meetings, and then made changes to his programming to better support. So those numbers have greatly decreased since then. He's also been reevaluated, we completed an updated FBA, so a number of things have happened since then. And the other student that I'm thinking that we recently assigned him an RBT to be his support person throughout. He's actually out in general population. But there's still moments where he has meltdowns that escalates, and he has an RBT. That's his behavior. So But that's more recent, so we'll see how the data.
Okay, all right, thank you for that clarity. Thank you.
Thanks. Actually, that was sort of one of my questions, so I'll piggyback on that one. Just so I'm understanding, are you using sort of seclusion as seclusion and restraint? Are those the incidents you're calculating, or they're?
No, just seclusion.
Just seclusion, okay.
But it's.
Restraint is recorded in another way. We have to upload that information to the state in a risk form. It's called, what is it? Restraint? IS, I don't know what it stands for. Off the top of my head, but part of our special ed compliance monitoring is we have to submit every restraint.
And are you looking sort of at them as the same way as you're looking at the seclusion numbers kind of on a school by school basis, or?
You have to, because
Okay.
as Ashley said, sometimes it's one student that we're doing to try to help, and so that will show a spike,
Okay.
through a certain time. And our goal is always to kind of have that level off and decrease.
The other question I had was about slide 9, just of the iReady ELA and the iReady math. And we probably had this discussion about iReady at some point or another. But these interventions that are listed here, are they just for kids with IEPs? Are they for all students?
These here,
Yeah.
we specifically use iReady as for students with IEPs. But iReady is also used is used in 2 buildings. It's used at Myers and Elkins Park prior.
Okay.
So it's
Okay, so we're not using iReady for the general population anymore.
they are in some.
Oh, in some buildings they are.
But yeah,
Okay. And then these are these like magnetic reading foundations and the magnetic reading, are those interventions then just for kids with IEPs, or? Okay.
yes.
And then are there other types of reading interventions depending on the student's needs? Because I know we've been like approving things for foundations and other Wilson trainings and
Well, foundations is for.
regular ed,
Yep.
yeah, but there, I
But
know.
it can be, it can be modified and used for special education students too. So any program can be modified, right, for a student in some way. But if you're looking at other programs that you're talking about, we have Reading Mastery, we use Wilson.
Read 180,
Read
Systems
180,
44.
Systems 44 that have been in place.
Things Kugler had put like a chart of it in the last year's presentation.
That's kind of what I was trying
We
to
could probably, I was about to say,
Yeah.
we can absolutely find it and send it to you guys. We have a chart that kind of breaks down what skill set in that subject area. So is it phonemic awareness? Is it comprehension? We have a chart for that. So
Okay,
yes.
that's what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
thank you, yeah, because I know we had sort of seen that at some point or another. Because I know that these are not the only interventions that we have, right?
And some of it is looking at the level of need that a child has, right? We have Wilson, but it's not the vast majority of the population using Wilson. Same with Reading Mastery. There's pockets of students who need those interventions versus like, this is more, I guess, a higher percentage of students are utilizing these programs, which is where they're presenting on.
Okay, and then the other question I had was slide 17, slide 17. Well, sort of, I mean, I wrote slide 17 after this, but, oh, I know, I think that just the overall question about this is, I know that this is like a really new thing for the high school, right? Like a really new thing. Yeah, I am sort of curious at some point, like what are the achievement, how are students doing on these tests?
So we do have some of that data, but it would not be fair to you guys to show you 2 months worth of data, because realistically, as a child growing dramatically in 2 months, absolutely not. But so I think our goal would be at either the end of the year or into next year, being able to have a full year of rollout with this program to be able to actually show you the growth of like students in grade level. From the information we have at the high school, all of them have had positive trends. But like I said, the amount of that, whether it's 2 months growth of a year or something like that, once again, being comparable to the amount of time utilizing the program.
Remind me again, at the high school, we have life skills support, learning support, emotional support,
And autistic.
and autistic support. right?
Got 'em all.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's
I also wrote that they have para educator, that's a huge step in the right direction for sure, based on where we were probably about 5 years ago, which was not a great place, so our Paris.
Attendance is increasing.
That's
You know,
good too, yeah.
I mean, not at work, I mean, at the PDs. At the-
Both would be
Their
fine,
attendance
actually.
has been, I think that's been also positive, because now that I think about it, I don't hear much.
And then part of the state for paras who do not have at least an associate's degree, they have to complete a competencies
20 hours.
program. Yeah, well, not just 20 hours. They have to do a competency program kind of to make up that gap of, I guess, education. And we have a lot of students, thanks to Missy Williams, who's really overseeing that too. We have a lot of students, paras, who have been completing those hours beforehand. It's like the overview. I think it was like kind of lost in the shuffle at points, but now it's like we really are on top of, and like we get CC'd whenever the paras get their certificate of completion from the state, and we have that all on their record too. So that is increased dramatically as well.
That's great, yeah, and I know that we're one of the few districts, well, initially, I think we were the only one, but working with the MCIU to participate in that program to get paras then.
Oh, yeah.
We have
Yes.
4 of them.
I was gonna say, we also have a program
Yeah.
where many of the paras are going back for their associate's degree, which is also like a stepping stone to becoming teachers. So we
Yeah.
are also working on that. We had 2 last year, and I think we just
4.
expanded it to 4 again.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
Thank you, excuse me. A lot of my questions have been answered, but since we were just talking about having talked to some paras who are going back to school, they're excited, I'm excited for them, and, going back to school is hard, whether you're, whether you're doing it when you're, 20, or whether you're 40 or 50, it's a lot, so I appreciate the support that they're getting from you all to do that, because it's only gonna make them a better support to our students and a better asset to the district, and speak for them personally. Again, I think my questions have all been answered at some point. I did want to just, in 2 places this came up, in terms of, I think Mr. Schultz mentioned it in terms of when I think you did, Dr. Cat, when a student is flagged, under the Naglieri screening, and then it's to do the work to get them to, to do the full evaluation. And then as well, when parents, guardians understanding the IEP processes, but any of those things and so many other processes, as a parent, as a guardian, grandparent, whoever that adult is, you can't play the game if you don't know what the game is. And until you go through and do it the first time, you don't know what questions to ask, how to approach it. You get this letter and you're like, I don't need my kid to be tested. So I appreciate the efforts that you all are making in all of those areas to really improve educating our families so that they know that, what the process is, what to ask, and that everyone has questions at some point, and those IEPs, they are long, there are a lot of words that, it's hard to understand. So I think making it simple and clear to families so that they, they can support you and their students, is appreciated. So thank you. Yes, Ms. Muller.
Is there anything that's not on this presentation that you would either like us to know or like us to think about? We might see on a board agenda in 6 months or it's like, but anything along those lines.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking specifically about the high school. Honestly, I know there has been a lot of work before I joined the board and when I was involved with SEEK and even its previous incarnation. The high school has been an area of challenge for a long time, I think.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say not, but I will commend my teachers on the work they are putting in. So we have been doing a lot of pinpoint training on IEP writing. I've been trying to roll it a lot this year to kind of really help once again, teachers feel comfortable in what they have to do in supporting their students. They're all great people. They all care about kids, right? And now it's just really systemizing how we are doing that and what that looks like in meetings. And I'll commend Dr. Catcherone for giving us the flexibility in that, especially when we have new identified students. We make it a point to be there, us as supervisors, because we have a little bit maybe of the deeper knowledge, but we're also looking to support those parents so they understand a little bit more, because it can be very intimidating. So yeah, at the high school, I've been working really hard to try to help the teachers in that, and I personally have seen growth in them and in the work they're doing, the IEPs they're writing, and the work with their students. So.
Do we have anyone online Zoom with a comment or a question?
We have one.
I'm sorry. You're not.
Jessica Freeland asked one question: will there be an autistic support classroom added to Glenside Elementary?
We are with everything going on right now in the district with Elkins Park and with everything, we are looking at all kinds of different things, but it has been our mission to have some type of autistic support in all the K-4s or K-5s if that's the way it should go. Simply because we are seeing an incredible increase in the students coming in from early intervention. We have 4 autistic support classrooms at Wingcote. We just opened up one at Cheltenham about 2 months ago. We have the 2 at Myers. And Ms. Rodriguez has already worked with me and shown me a list of some incoming EI students. So the plan is to have one, but we have to wait until all the other things sort out with EP and the staffing and everything. But that is the goal. It's needed. It's needed. And our goal is always to keep kids in their home school.
Thank you.
The only question online.
Okay, great. So to the members of the community who are here in person, if you have a question or a comment, please state your full name and where you reside in the district before you make your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sharon Marzocco, I live in Glenside. I have a question about iReady. Is that being used as an intervention or for diagnostics?
It's being used for learning support students. And then there's a diagnostic for the fall, winter, and the spring. So they're able to take those assessments and that drives the instruction. Because once you look at the data, you see how it, what skills they need to work on. So it personalized instructions for them.
So just diagnostics?
So it does intervene, the program does interventions as well.
Yeah.
So it's the diagnostic leads to what the program is going to work on with the student. It is not the sole instruction that is occurring for the student, but it is.
So what tier is that, would that be considered? If you're using that as an intervention?
It's part, it would be an intervention to address a goal on our IEP.
But I mean, is it like, it would be tier 3?
Be tier 3.
If they're in the
If they're-
special ed room? Okay. And then, my other question was about the seclusion report. That you're required to give that report to the board twice a year? Is there a requirement for the restraints report? And if so, if not, why isn't there one?
There's a requirement to the state, we report that to the state.
Should you not report it to the board or supply it to the board?
If they requested, I could absolutely supply that, yes.
That would be great if that was part of the school board policy.
I'm not gonna say it's not, that's something we need to revisit. But adding that is not a problem, so that's something we can easily.
And at one point you said that the paras are offering to go to training, they're not required, is that?
No, they're required on Wednesdays, yep, on our professional development days.
Do they get to choose?
Do they get to choose?
Do they have to go to every Wednesday?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, another one to say something, yeah.
I'm Rebecca Condon, I live in Ellis Park. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the special ed coordinator position. I think you were saying, I think you might have said it, that they're gonna be in all the schools now?
It's just it's a stipend that a teacher receives for being like a point person in the building. So for example, we just met with these special ed coordinators. They'll help support their colleagues in the building. Similar to how the supervisor would help, but supervisors cannot be present with their teachers in buildings every day. So they'll assist the principal with caseload development. They'll assist with any IEP writing questions. What else did I have the first meeting? Help be a first front line for our paraprofessionals. That was another key because, for example, Marcy Hammond is a special ed coordinator at CPK. And when a substitute para comes in the building, we don't know a substitute para is coming in the building, but when a substitute para comes in now, that special ed coordinator will greet that para, talk to that para, show that para exactly where to go. Same with subs for special ed teachers. Help with the schedules for para. So doing a lot of that building kind of work that integrates with special education and being a liaison now between the supervisor and myself.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, I'd like to entertain oh, sorry, sir.
No, I would be, remiss, not a question, but just really, kudos. We have a long way to go. We know that we're not, in denial of that fact. We established a strategic plan, which we're in year 2 of implementing. Everything that you guys see, and I know you work extremely hard with SEEK, is really a manifestation of us trying to get it right. And I just want to thank each and every one of you at the table for the work, for the partnership, the collaboration. And, you know, I don't want to pivot just to Ms. Loman, but I knew her frustration specifically years ago, and I'm hoping that you can see that the systems and structures to move our students forward are at least being put in place.
This is a small thing, Dr. Scriven, although it's a very basic thing. I could never get a direct answer as to which programs were in which schools, right? Do you remember that? We could, like, one time we get one number, another time we get like another number, and nobody quite seemed to know. And I mean, that's like a very basic, right? Like, we need to know where, you know, if we have learning support program in this school, you know, and I feel like that was just like emblematic, I think, of the overall, like, lack of system and lack of structure.
Right.
Yeah, so I absolutely see those changes, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make sure before the recording went off that was memorialized. So just thank you for the work done, and looking forward to our continued journey. That was it, man.
I just to add, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we don't live in a bubble in special education. So, you know, Dr. Riley, Ms. Collins, Ms. Savage, and Ms. Keen, I mean, that Office of Ed, as I shared in the presentation, while we're looking at IEPs and we're looking at specialized instruction, our thought process, you know, when we're not diving into deep, like the special ed things, is getting access to these students that every student has access to. So it's the work and the collaboration with the Office of Ed that's important and where our work starts.
Not seeing any other hands. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move, Pam Henry.
Second, Leah Moher.
Okay. Adjourn, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.